than our local cable subscribers.
With that, I will call to order this meeting of the Easthampton Planning Board for Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. All members are in person and we are recording. First item on the agenda is public speak. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak to anything that is not on the agenda tonight? All right, moving right along. Public hearings. Our first public hearing, Joe Kelly seeking a modification of the 2024 special permit for property located at 282 Labville Road.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John Furman, professional engineer and office manager for VHB in Springfield. With me tonight is Joe Kelly, the applicant, and Craig Othier, the builder. We're here for a special permit modification for Pineview Estates. Dylan, could I ask you to assist me in sharing?
Absolutely.
You've been here enough to know that I am not going to get
Not even try on it.
You want just everything?
Yeah. Selected, kind of flip back and forth.
You go.
All right, thank you. All right, so I have a quick presentation tonight. The board had approved a special permit for multi-family housing back in 2024. And that project has gone extremely well from a construction perspective. The roadway base is in, all the utilities are in, all the houses are constructed, and they're all spoken for, sold. So the applicant was able to secure additional land, and I'll walk through the numbers so that you know where we're going with that. But that additional land was enough to allow us to build 2 additional units on the property. So what I plan to do tonight is kind of walk through the site plans with you, show you where those 2 are. Then I'm going to flip over to the cover letter and the narrative, and kind of walk through. I've highlighted a few things that would be important for the board to see, and then happy to answer any questions for you. So if there's nothing immediate, I'll jump right at it.
Thank you.
So this is the plan set that was submitted. As we were going through, I'm going to zoom up on a couple things. I was very careful when we did the plan set. Anything we changed, we put a balloon around it so you could actually see what we changed. So on the legend and general notes, we basically added a note in a category which basically says permitting history, which said why, what we've done so far, how we got the permit, and why we're here. So that is just more of an item for anybody looking at the plans. This is the overall plan. You can see this is Orient View, this is Loudville Road on the left side, and this is the roadway that we constructed coming in. The 2 areas that are the 2 housing units that have the balloons around them are the 2 that are being proposed. So they're called Unit 3 and Unit 8. And in the same fashion as the set, this is the set that the board reviewed back in 2004. So that's why it was important to add a revision and to balloon all the changes on it. So again, here are the 2 units that are being added. And in this area here, we have some zoning summaries. Really, the only thing that changed in here is the building coverage. So the maximum building coverage for the site is 10%. The original site was, I think, 5.4, and so we are up to 7.73. So we're still under the maximum. What this chart here is northings and eastings of the corners A and B. So if you look at the unit, there's a corner A and a corner B. Those surveyors will use that information in that chart to locate these. It's the same system that was used for everything else on the site. We do have some plans that weren't changed, and those plans are noted here. No updates to this sheet from the previous submittal, just so nothing changed as a result of those 2 units being added. We get to the grading and drainage, and again, you can see the floor plan, the proposed finished floor elevation in the garage, and then the driveway coming out. In total, the addition of these 2 units plus the driveway is, I have the exact number, which I'll give you later, but it's about 5,600 square feet of additional impervious area. So what we did is we updated the stormwater management report. All the stormwater, as a reminder, all the stormwater for the site goes into one of 2 basins. It basically, from the roadway, flows into the driveways. It goes into this basin first, and then this has an outlet control structure, and then goes into this basin here where it's infiltrated. Both of these basins are sized to control the 100-year storm event water generating from this site. No water leaves the site or connects into any municipal system here, and the systems that were installed are adequate to handle that 5,600 square feet. And again, I'll walk through the numbers after I get to the plan set. We get to the utility plan, and the contractor has already installed the stubs under the roadway, or the driveway, so we don't need to do any open cutting. They're all available at the property line. So all the conduits for the electric, sewer, and water are already here. And then you can see them on this unit over here. One of the things that I did, just for the point of being thorough on the submittal, is when we first approved the project, we had a different pump station specified right here. It had a wet well, and then it pumped into a square box which had all the valves and stuff in it. Because it was so easy to dig out here, we went to a different self-contained unit, which is it's a deep well. It's about 20 feet deep. So the sewer, same principle. All the sewer gravity feeds the same location where the pump is. It's just raising it about 5 or 6 feet, goes into gravity, and then goes the gravity line out to the street. I did have a conversation with the city engineer and Dylan, because the detail, which I'll show you, I ballooned, and she thought we were adding another pump station. I said, no, I just basically updated the one that we had there so you'd have the current information. So no change, just keeping you up to date.
Yes.
I apologize. I don't normally like to interrupt, but I'm struggling with this one piece of information that's making it difficult for me to comprehend. You've added some additional land to make this possible. The buildings are kind of separated around. They're bookending what's already there.
Yes.
Where's the new land?
I will show you.
Where's the new land? That's the question. I'm like looking. How's that?
So when we add new plan sets, we put them at the end of the sheet. So
all right, then I will
bear with me. I will show you exactly where it is, and then I have the accounting for it.
All right.
So, again, erosion sediment control, nothing to really add here. The erosion control and the vegetated buffer that we've already created on the side here is going to be maintained. This is the roadway profile, no changes to it. It just is a duplication of information from utility connections. The details you can see here, this is the detail that I changed with the pump station, just putting in what we've already installed. And then we get to the truck turning template, which was for the fire department, showing that we made no changes for the access. Planting plan, no changes to any of that, these 2 units. The existing conditions survey, we're just using that over again. What this plan is an as-built of what's out there. So as the units have been being constructed and being sold, we've been doing a progressive as-built, and that's what we've been closing on. So this just basically shows the units that are already constructed. So this answers your question. So this is the overall survey. The original parcel I'm tracing out here. And the 2 parcels where we receive the additional land are right here. And so we have a lot consolidation plan in the set, which we will file, which will basically remove these 2 lines It'll take these two areas, combine them with this parcel, and it will reduce the size of 294 and 296 Loudville Road. Minimum requirement is 35,000 square feet. 296 will have 35,079 square feet, and 294 will have 44,893 square feet after the A&R is approved. I'll go through the numbers real quickly so you can see how we got to the point of that. And that's actually the last plan in the set.
So just to connect the dots, right, the extra land was needed not for a place to locate the houses, but to get the lot coverage and the open space requirement.
That is
right?
correct. That is correct. All right.
Part
If
of
there's
my
no
question-
questions on the
yeah.
plan, and we can certainly come back to
Well,
it.
I do have one. I mean, part of my questioning was about the house's placement compared to the boundary. And I'm wondering with the two new homes, if you could just really quickly touch on that as to how
Sure.
close the lot boundary is.
So we actually have dimensions on here. This is lot, building 3. We are 61.2 feet from this westerly boundary. And we get over to the, lot, unit 8, we are 26.2 feet. Under ordinance, we're required to have a minimum of 20. So we exceed the requirements on those. And then this line, if you recall from the planting plan, has a new row of arborvitae is going to be installed.
Thank you.
We get into the cover letter, and it basically covers all the special permit criteria that's needed. And so, again, this was a letter that was originally submitted. And what we've gone through is we treated it as giving you the whole numbers, and then we've provided what that incremental update is between them. So this was submitted on April 28th. You approved the special permit by planning board meeting on February 6th, 2024. So it's just a little over 2 years. This is the accounting that I wanted to kind of focus on. So our initial parcel area of 282 Loudville is 532,300 square feet. We constructed 15 units, and the area needed for that, we need 35,000 square feet per unit. So we needed 525,000 square feet. So we actually had a surplus in the original parcel of 7,300 square feet. Now we get into the additional parcel areas that we required from 296. I've already told you these numbers, 35,038 square feet. For 294, 27,666. That brings our revised parcel area for 282 Loudville after the A&R is signed to 595 and 4 square feet. At 35,000 square feet for each unit, we're allowed 17 condominiums. We previously have approved 15, and that additional land gives us the room for 2. That's the accounting that we use to get the additional land. The land is not going to be worked in any way. It's going to stay in its present state. It is just a land mass being added to 282. Very similar to the boundary that we have in back on the, if you recall, we had a 200-foot buffer area. We monumented that, and that is going to stay untouched, as will this additional land. So it's just basically just taking that land area and appending it to 282. Again, I just highlighted a few things. The buildings will connect to the existing infrastructure within the street that's already constructed, and everything will still remain under private ownership. The town will have no responsibility for the roadway or the utilities there. No additional land clearing or wood removal is needed. The areas where the 2 houses are going to go are already rough graded, and they were that way because of the original construction. So we're just approved. We'll just dig a hole and put a building in it. We get into the special permit criteria, and I just go through these quickly to kind of highlight some of the changes. I've already talked about this one. All of these lines here, the 35,000 parcel per dwelling area, all of this stuff remains unchanged from the original submittal because None of the setbacks that we're showing have changed. The story, the house design, everything's the same. The one thing that has changed is the coverage, 7.73, 10% max, and I think we were at 5.4 originally, so we still are with under. The siting requirements, nothing has changed. I talked about the 200-foot buffer being 250 foot away for conservativeness. No additional cutting is planned. We are still preserving 69% of the wooded area on site. Again, nothing has changed. We get into some of the other things for special permit criteria. The distance between buildings still exceeds 10 feet. The building designs, the board has been out there on other site walks for the project across the street. You can see the building designs. It's very attractive. They're all spoken for. So these next two, we hope once we get them in there, they'll be spoken for very quickly as well. From a utility perspective, just as a reminder, the project connects to the 16-inch water main that is in Loudville Road, and we were directed to make that connection by the DPW. It is the high pressure, high volume line, so anything that happens within the site itself doesn't affect the pressure and the water delivery for the remaining neighborhoods. Everything is consistent. For sewage and water usage, these numbers here are the total for all 17 units. From a sewage perspective, sewage is calculated by 310 CMR 15, which is DEP regulation at 110 gallons per day per bedroom. So you can see that this line right here, so the sewage increase that we had originally predicted would be increased by 440 gallons. On the water, 90% of the water that is consumed on a project goes out in waste. So 10% remains on site. So if you take this number and you increase it by 1.1%, you have a water demand of 483 gallons over what we've already reported. So again, those are very detrimental, very minor increases with no detrimental impact on the delivery system. From the stormwater perspective, I wanted to focus on this area a little bit. So we do have that increase. I was actually off in the area. It's 5,118. And so we took the stormwater report that we had generated. We changed the area that is contributing to the drainage basins, and we increased that area for impervious by this much, and then we increased the impervious area and then decreased the pervious area. So we did a trade-off. And so what has happened is we went right to the 100-year design storm because these basins are sized to hold 100-year. The infiltration basin, which is the second one, that's the end run for all the stormwater. The high water mark at the 100-year elevation changed from 298.29 to 298.54. So that is an increase of 3 inches. There is still more than 1 foot of freeboard in that basin. So we can handle a 100-year storm plus a nudge, and then we'd still be all on site, which is what the DEP requires. All these permits that we listed previously for the project have been taken care of. We don't have to update them. It's for the sewage pump station and then the stormwater handbook. Those are all set. Federal regulations, which was the EPA notice of intent for general construction, that's been filed and it's going to remain in effect. We may have to update that to kind of kick out the date for the construction period. The master deed that was submitted and reviewed by the board is remaining in effect. Nothing's changed. The covenants that were established for the condo association, that is all remaining the same. Nothing is changing there. So we didn't submit those because they're the same. That's not something that we're updating.
Good question on that. If I remember right, and we've done a few projects, so it is possible I could be confusing another one, but there was a lift for the sewage on this one, right?
Yes, they actually both have them.
And that was in the
This
covenant
one
for
and
maintenance.
Whispering Pines, and that's the pump station that I showed you that detail.
Got it.
So so basically it's in and it's functioning. It's been functioning probably for a year now as a guess. And
It
we
was in
went.
the covenant, right? For
It
me.
is, yep,
that's
it's
what
all,
I'm
it's
getting.
maintained by the condominium association. Yep, it's a very efficient design rather than buying parts and having someone assemble it in the field. Contractor just digs a hole, it comes on a truck, you lift it down, you bury it, and you connect it to power and pipes, and you're done.
And that pump can handle the additional.
It can, yes, it can actually handle much more than what we've added to it, so we always tend to oversize things just to make sure we don't have an issue. From a traffic perspective, I made notes here because there's a little update that's happening. So as traffic engineers, what we do is we're required to use the most current regulation. When we did the design originally, ITE manual edition 11 was what was used. And we were reporting that the original units, which were 15 of them, if you recall the peak hour, had 13 new vehicle trips in the morning and 17 vehicle trips during the weekday at night. Under the new, and this is the table from the trip generation that was submitted. So you can see the 13 and the 17 right here. What has happened is ITE has updated their manual to the 12th edition. So when we did the analysis, we basically looked at what was generated and compared it to what we had already predicted. The ITE updates, basically, and I talked to our traffic engineer about this, is that they had data in there from like the 70s and 80s, which was getting a little antiquated. So they pulled that data out and refreshed what was remaining. And the amount of like duplex homes reduced the amount of traffic generated. So by adding the on the 2026, the morning peak hour traffic is a total of 16, which is an increase of 3 because we had 13 here. So it's 3 additional ones. The reason I questioned our traffic engineer is because on the original design, we had 17 in the evening and we have 14 now. So we have 3 less. And I said, how can you have more in the morning and less? And he explained to me that the traffic study is a generalization of a lot of data points from ITE. The fact that they updated the manual basically says they got rid of older things and are becoming more modern. So we asked them to, I said, okay, we're comparing apples and oranges here. We're looking at 11 edition and 12th edition. Can you give me an analysis that they're both 11 or they're both 12? And they did. I can submit this to the board so you have it for record. But basically, this is the difference here. So if you take the original project and you analyze both of those under the 12th edition, what that tells you, it basically just flips it. The morning difference is 0, and the weekday evening is -3, which is opposite of what we just said. If you take both projects and you analyze them on 11, edition 11, the difference is 0 and the weekday evening is +2. In any event, we're talking less than a handful of cars. The conclusion they have here is that this change is so minuscule, the roadway network will never see it, will never have any problems with it. So we stand by what we have. So we've given you 3 different analyses that kind of shows where we're at. And that just really kind of points to the fact that this is really a very minor update. I think that brings us, let me go back to the cover letter. We talked about the adequacy of the surface drainage in the 100-year storm event, the freeboard in the basin. We are not changing what we committed to on the wetlands and the watersheds. Riverfront buffer is 200 feet. We are at 250, given where we took the flagging from, so, and that is protected. There are no adverse impacts on any of the city's supplies, water, sewers, distribution, treatment system, fire protection, street. It's all there. Anything that we're building on this development is remaining the responsibility of the owners. The provisions for off-site loading and loading of vehicles. Every driveway here or every unit is provided with a 2-car driveway. So you have parking for 2 vehicles in the garage and parking for 2 vehicles in the driveway. And these 2 units are the same. Again, I think we really adhered to this one, which was the integration of the project into the existing landscape. We had 2 spots available for it. The original plan set actually had one of the buildings dashed in. And then when the opportunity came for the second one, we were able to add it kind of at the bookend of the other area. The architecture kind of speaks for itself on the landscaping and the building. And then adequate protection for surface and groundwater. If you recall, this area and the one across the street is in a water supply protection because of a well. So the measures that we have for stormwater have been enhanced over what our normal project was. We have storm scepter collectors, which are better at removing sediment and removing floating product. We use water quality calculations based on the higher number of impervious, so that we are basically treating more water than we're required to for just a normal project that doesn't have that. So we continue with the commitments that we made at the first project. We're just continuing to carry them through for this project here. And I think I'm getting down near the end. Adequacy of the methods to ensure that the use will not create a nuisance. As we were talking about Whispering Pines across the street, there were some abutters to this project that came and talked to Joe and Craig about some issues they had during construction. They talked to them. They resolved all of those. They are isolated incidences. The project is near completion. And I believe by all intents and purposes, it is going well. So we expect that will carry through for these next two units. I think that is what I have for a presentation. Happy to answer any questions or give you any additional information.
James?
I'm on a roll.
Do it.
So with regard to construction, the other properties are sold. Are they inhabited currently?
Within this development?
Yeah.
All but 2.
So
All
So-
but 1.
previously, construction sort of happened at once, or you built them one at a time and people were living there. What I'm getting at is, what are the impacts to the people on site already going to be for construction? And how are you going to prevent dust and visibility from the construction of these 2 buildings from the internal grouping of buildings?
So there was at any point there was 1 to 2 units under construction at any time, and the contractors were within the driveway themselves were very respectable for the people that live there and access. So they tried to have their vehicles parked on either one side or the other to make sure that there was access to the units. There were opportunities or instances where something was happening where the roadway had to be blocked temporarily. Those were isolated, but for the most part, access is always tried to be maintained. From a dust perspective, during excavation, contractor was conscious of that. To my knowledge, there was no real issues with any dust during excavation, but one of the methods that he agreed to during constructions was to use water to spray soil if dust became a problem. I'm not sure if he ever had to do that, but that commitment again still holds through. We are going to have a little bit of an excess of soil because now we're digging 2 more holes, and I think everything's kind of filled. If that's not mistaken, we might have an opportunity for that landscape berm back to place a little there, but any excess soil is the contractor's responsibility. He will move it off site. And as soon as physically able, once the site is graded, utilities are in, it'll be topsoiled and seeded so any dust issues go away. The last thing that we have to do out there is to install curbing. I don't believe the curbing is in yet. We have a sidewalk to put in on east side, and then it crosses over to the west side. And then once those are in, the top course will be put in. The catch basins will be brought online going into the detention basin, because none of that is functioning yet. Right now, any water that falls on the site just goes off into the sand on the side of the roadway and infiltrates. So we've kept those basins offline intentionally so that they are not clogged up. And we have some striping to do and some signage, stop sign, stuff like that. But for the most part, we're not anticipating it to be an issue. And they're looking forward to wrapping it up and really starting the next one across the street.
Question, are you gonna put any additional lighting, like a street light for these two people?
No, the project did not have any lighting proposed at all.
Okay.
So the lighting that was proposed would be coming off of whatever was on the buildings.
Okay.
Any other questions from the planning board? Planning department, any comments? Questions from you?
Everything looked good on our end. Engineering, reviewed all this. They had a couple of comments, which I believe have been shared with you folks, of just, big one being, straw wattles. I don't think were shown on the plans.
I don't know that I received those.
I can send those to you as well,
Okay.
just to make sure that you have them.
Sure.
But, other than that, yeah, everything looks good.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the public? Or, I'm sorry, yes.
For the record, I'm Joe Kelly, co-developer, 632 Westfield Street in West Springfield. So just to expand upon what John mentioned to the last comment, so we've had a great relationship with the current owners over there. Anyone who's come into this project, we have disclosed that there's potential to add 2 more units. As you recall, we did add that on our original plan and a dotted line. So we kept a very fluid conversation. And we're still not done over there as far as the infrastructure is concerned, what John was saying. So we've told everybody that once we get done, we're doing a lot of landscaping over, regrading. So dust control will definitely be available if needed, but we are going to go through in the fall to power wash all the units, mitigate the noise the best we can. So if this does go forward tonight, which we hope it does, we will be working together in the 2 units right away. So our goal will be done by the fall. So we do have 1 pre-sold pending approval, and the existing unit owners are excited to have additional revenue coming in from the HOA side. I know it's going to bring in more tax revenue for the city. So we kind of strategically planned that in hopes of gaining additional land, we would be set up for success with minimal impact on the unit owners. So the last unit that's existing will be closing beginning of June. And we hope to move quickly on this if it's approved. So that way in the fall, it's nice, done, beautiful, and everyone's happy. So that's the goal.
Thank you. Any comments or questions in the room or online? Please come to the podium, name and address. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna Zuko. I live at 1 Nichols Way. I have the house that was the original house at 282 Loudville, Stuart and Emily's. And when we bought in, to Joe's point, yes, we did know that there was a possibility that a new unit was coming in, and it will be right next to me. And I just wanted to say I don't have a problem with it. That's all. That was
We
it.
did receive a late submission from another resident, Judith Chick. Says, good afternoon. My husband and I live at 12 Nichols Way and fully support the proposal for 2 additional units in Pine View Estates. Though we are new to the area, we've been impressed with the care that has gone into this development and look forward to being here in beautiful Easthampton for years to come. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the public?
A Chris online.
Great. Chris, name and address, please.
Hi, this is Chris, Ashley Circle. Yes, being familiar with traffic increase from the Nichols addition, it has been quite noticeable, and people walk on the streets. They have expressed their concerns too in crossing Loudville, and there's definitely more cars. That's noticeable. We're adding another 8 cars essentially, and I would challenge the thinking because as far as like the burden that these 2 units do propose to the said development, when you're looking at people today, the houses are actually being more, let's say that you say, oh, they probably wouldn't have 4 people with cars. What's happening is because of the price of housing, people are now cohabitating, whether it be the children, the grandchildren, whatever. There's more going in there. So we have a potentially dense, more dense solution than what you're presenting. My thought is that it's already been shown that it's increased the traffic in the area. And I'm telling you, somebody is going to get hit because people are coming around that corner and they don't see people. And they, there's something's going to happen. And I'm just putting it out there because it's going to be on you people to provide the safety that we don't have the right to figure out. So I really question that, and I want to put that out there as a potential liable situation. And I want to say that up front today, on record. So the other thing that I would say that in Nichols Way, I noticed that all the surrounding bushes have died. So I don't know, like, as far as liabilities that way, do you come back and do you replace all those? And what is the length of time to make sure that what you're investing in is truly what we're getting in this investment?
Thank you, Chris. John,
Can I address both of those?
please.
From the landscaping perspective, the trees and stuff that were planted around the perimeter are an amenity to the project, and we certainly don't want to have dead trees here. So they will be replaced in the fall when the final grading and the landscaping goes in. And I believe one of the conditions within the approval was that the landscaping would always be maintained. So that is a non-issue for us. We're not going to be selling condos if we have dead trees and stuff all over. So whatever is dead or suffering will easily be replaced. On the crosswalk, we talked about this at Pineview meeting, and we talked about it at Whispering Pines meeting. So the project itself is adding crosswalks within our private driveways. There are no sidewalks within Loudville. The site distance from the driveways, we intentionally lined up the driveways across one another. So the site distances left and right would be adequate and they meet the speed that is out there. We not only looked at the site distances from the posted speed, but at the actual recorded speed, which is in excess. The problem with adding a crosswalk is that it is a mid-block crosswalk. And when you put a mid-block crosswalk in, that means it's a crosswalk across the street and it's not located at an intersection, which is a natural stopping point. Drivers don't expect it. And I have actually witnessed, I live in this area, the crosswalks on Cottage Street, those flashing lights, the rapid beacons. I have seen people push the buttons and then immediately walk out into the crosswalk thinking that people can stop. And I almost hit somebody once with my wife in the truck because she thought we could stop in time and we were like 3 feet from the walk. Their mid-block crosswalks are not safe. They have to be properly protected and you don't expect to have one on a country road. So our solution or our answer to that during all the meetings was that this is a police action. Any potential issues that would occur would be due to excessive speed and the police department needs to get out there and issue tickets. Someone said once to me before, you always remember where you get your ticket. So if you start handing out tickets, you're going to remember that that's where the police hang out and then the speed will drop down. So at this point, we have no plans to address any safety for pedestrians on Loudville.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions in the room or online? Any other comments or questions from planning board members?
Comment?
Yes.
Thank you. I think you did a great job on the presentation. I'd just like to make a statement that I think these 2 additional buildings are relatively minor overall to the project. I think the project is clearly successful and a benefit to Easthampton. I think it's a little bit of a shell game, the way the property's added just to give enough land to make all this happen. I kind of wish we had better rules that didn't put us in this situation so that we could have more housing, which we desperately need, without having to play the games. Maybe make it so that the land's more usable or denser or protected in such a way. But that's not you. I think you are playing by the rules. I think that's us. And so I just want to say I'm in support of this and I plan on voting in favor.
Any other comments or questions from the board? All right,
I motion to approve the modification to the 2024 special permit for 282 Loudville Road.
Second.
all right, voting to approve the modification. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. All right,
Thank you all very much.
good luck. All right. Moving along, public hearing. We have a public hearing for Lathrop Community Inc. An applicant seeking a modification of their 1996 special permit for property located at 100 Bassett Brook Drive.
It only works, right?
Folks, we have another item on the agenda, so if we could take conversations outside, that'd be great. Thank you. It gives Jeff a little time to get everything set up. It's okay.
Thanks.
It's creating a diversion.
No one wants to see Jesse's bad side.
Right. For the first time ever.
Thank you very much. Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group, here on behalf.
Folks, again, if we could take the conversations outside, we've got more work to do here. Thank you. Sorry, Jeff.
No, that's fine. Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group here on behalf of the Lathrop community. This request tonight is a request to amend also a special permit issued, I think originally back in '98. I think the most recent amendment, significant amendment, was back in 2005, if my memory serves me right. Just real quick reference to the property as it currently stands. Florence Road runs up the right side of this image. It enters in off of Bassett Brook Drive, which is just north of Lyman Street. So this is on the west side of Florence Road. The larger community and development is sort of central to the site, or at least in the front half. There's a stream that crosses north to south, and then the majority of the back portion of the property is wetlands, conservation area, trail systems, and whatnot for the residents. There's a range of housing types here. There's clusters of cottages. You can see that in these smaller clusters here. And then there's a larger multi-story building, the inn, as it's referred to, which contains also residential units. Just a real quick overview of the property. The wetlands are all hatched. The green is conservation area. Again, the central development is in the front portion of the site. The area that we are primarily looking at is in back of the inn. So this is the three-story, multi-story building that's central to the site. They've got a dumpster location in the back. There are parking lots that surround the existing building, dumpster, chiller enclosure, and an access loop in the back to provide access to the lower basement level. And there are garage entrances on the lower level, which you'll see in some images I'll bring up shortly. But most of that is hidden from view. The main Bassett Brook Drive sort of goes by that sort of surface area in the back of the inn. Again, project was originally permitted in '96. I guess it's gone through a number of amendments. The most recent was 2005, as I mentioned, which added 17 additional units on Huckleberry Lane, which is the northern or the eastern portion of the site. But nothing really has happened on the site since then. Again, just an aerial view looking west. So this is a larger multi-story building I was talking about. Service area in the back. All the adjacent land drops down to wetlands that separate that from some of the other lanes, but you can see the cottage colonies or clusters that surround the inn property. And then this is just a view of the project site in the back service area, the chiller enclosure that I mentioned, dumpster enclosure. They park some of the transportation vehicles back there, staff parks back here. There's visitor parking and whatnot. The proposal is really pretty limited in context. And this is being driven by a number of factors. Part of the project entails covering this small parking lot on this side with a covered solar array. That was prompted by both the expiring tax credits this spring or early summer, and then also a donor that came online that happened to offer up a donation to support this construction. So we are including next slide is probably a little bit easier. So you can see the solar array that's over the existing parking lot to just maximize the amount of space underneath that array. We've got 3 additional spaces that we're proposing just to square out that lot, but this will just be all over the existing parking. All that runoff is being directed to the existing system. Where the dumpster stands now is this smaller rectangle. We are constructing a simple 1-story, 1,300 square foot maintenance building. So all of that, all of those facilities can come out of the basement of the larger in-building. And then we're simply relocating the existing dumpster enclosure just a little bit further into the site. Trucks can still access this, get around the end and exit the site, trying to avoid disturbing the chiller pad and those utilities, but it's all happening in that back portion of the existing inn. I think that is all I really have to present. No new, traffic generation. There's no new units being proposed.
No expansion of reseential.
No expansion of residential. No, this is all just maintenance and facility, upkeep infrastructure.
All right.
So,
Any questions from the board?
Yeah.
Well, Harry?
Yeah, how much actually power are you getting off of that solar? Is that enough to power a house, we'll say, for one day, or 2 houses, or?
that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. There's certainly power in the array. There's going to be solar on the roof of the maintenance building, but Patrick, who's representing from the Lathrop community, can probably answer that question a little better.
Patrick, can I just have you come?
Yeah.
That we get you on the microphone. Thank you.
Yes.
No, that's good.
Patrick Arguin, CEO at Lathrop Community, and the great news, I'm very excited about this. We're going to save $6,000 to $7,000 per month adding this solar array and solar on our roof. And this is why we're timing everything together for our facilities building as well. We want to put solar on the facilities building. It'll all be one project, so that we're not just going multiple times to different engineers and multiple connections. So this will all be tied in at the same time. And the Safe Harbor Act is July 4th. We need to get in there before that time just to secure our rebates. So we're really excited. So it would power many houses, about 250 kilowatt hours.
Would this be very similar to the Valley Co-op type of thing?
Yeah, a small piece of that. So if you looked at the Valley Co-op and you took like one sliver of that, that's what you're looking at. Yes.
James?
Please stay. Good question, Terry. All my questions are about solar.
Yeah.
And everything else here, I think, is a no-brainer. I think that is too. I'm excited about it, so don't take that wrong. But I'd like a little more info. But it's okay if you don't have it. How many panels are we talking?
Don't have that exact number off the top of my head. And the reason is many of the panels are going on the roof of the building. So we had multiple proposals that we looked at when the solar donor came forward. He was saying, not going to live forever. So I would like to see this as well. And we were excited. We looked at fields actually originally, but we have a lot of residents that would push back to the fields. So looking at the impermeable areas, such as the existing roof actually, and the existing back parking lot seemed to make a lot of sense. So we do have a lot of panels between the 3 areas.
Is this going straight into the grid? No batteries involved?
So there's pre and post. So the answer to your question is no batteries involved at this time, but pigtailed, I guess, so that we could in the future. The goal is to make this all pre, so we use it up first before it goes back in the grid. But there's opportunities to do it both ways with the current credits that are available.
If you did go with batteries, because you have the
Yeah.
opportunities, where would you store those batteries?
Well, it's a significant problem with batteries. So what we tried here is what got us all excited about this. We started with a very small residential, like $100,000 solar investment in Northampton at the meeting house. And we did look at putting a battery even for that. The size of the battery was significant. And the end of the day, unfortunately, it was propane generator is the best backup for that case. So we spent 30,000 on a propane generator versus probably a lot more
Yeah.
on a battery.
So you're saying you probably.
We're just not ready for
You're not
battery.
gonna do
The battery technology, I'm told, is not there yet.
I think too, from our perspective, that's pretty well governed by fire code and things like that. So I think that if that were to happen,
Unless it
that would be-
required new development.
unless it required new development or something like that, but yeah. yeah.
And then the last question you touched on a little bit, you said that the runoff off of the solar was all going into the into your same system. Basically, are you gonna be putting gutters on it to manage that, or is it just flowing in the direction to?
There, I understand there is a gutter proposed on the southern end of that will collect it and redirect it into the.
Already there? Okay.
And I'll add that we've looked at this carefully because of failures that have happened elsewhere. So it's completely, the water runoff isn't going through the soil. It's fully gasketed is actually the terminology.
So it's gonna be a complete, essentially roof over the entire parking lot. We're not
Complete
talking,
air
it's not gonna have the gaps like the co-op does.
That's right. And it's all angled in one direction.
Oh, in one direction,
So that
okay.
we can then send it to one direction
And then into gutters.
Into that
And into the
system.
stormwater system, okay.
That's it for me.
Any other questions from planning board? Questions or comments from the planning department?
Yeah, the one comment that we have right now, it's, this has gone to Conscom last night and it sounds like it's not quite right at Conscom. And there's a possibility that the plans may be modified based from the results of that hearing. So my recommendation to meet these folks' timeline while also giving Conscom the chance to finish their work would be to continue this to the June 2nd meeting. Between now and then, I could write up a draft amendment, so that way it could be, everything gets figured out at Conscom, comes back to you folks for a
I
vote.
think that makes sense, especially if it's gonna maybe change the plan and also allows them to confirm sort of the stormwater stuff and things like that. I think if that works, I know you guys, your clock's ticking, but
Yeah, I would ask one question because the clock is ticking. My understanding is that meeting is June 8th, according to yesterday, and your meeting is June 2nd. So I'd like to get approval pending their approval.
That is a tricky one, and I guess,
yeah, I mean, I don't know, because part of this does include the stormwater, which we generally,
Yeah, and I can provide a little background or, just what their consideration was. It was really about the additional impervious area. Which in this case is really limited to that 1,300 square foot maintenance building. That's the other solar panel covers existing parking. The dumpster replacement is just a replacement in kind dumpster area. So it's really just that 1,300 square foot building. We're proposing a dry well to service that roof water rather than tie it into the existing system, just because that's the most sensible thing to do. And they were just looking for additional calculations to support.
even though we are the stormwater permit granting authority under the
Yeah.
special permit bylaw, we tend to defer and take the guidance from Concom. And I'm actually not sure how or if we would want to jump in front of that. But I would suggest we put this on for the 2nd, and that gives us time for us to look. Are we on the 8th? Is that the problem?
we're on the 2nd, so they're on the 8th, because yes,
So
lined up this month.
why don't we put us on for the 2nd in the hopes that we can figure out procedurally and sort of box checking wise if we're comfortable with approving this conditionally. And if we have to push it out another 2 weeks, we will have to, but like, I think that gives us time to get a decision together, but also look at sort of the nuance of this, because we generally just, I don't think we've approved a stormwater permit ourselves at least probably in our tenure. Yes.
One of the comments you made was that the plans may have to change for the Concom. If, maybe not, but they may. If we were to approve it conditionally, which I agree with Jesse, I think it's better to be safe, but I'm not sure what that's gonna gain us. And the plans were to change, we're approving the plans as they are now. If the plans changed, the things go out the window. So I'm not sure you'd even.
It would be a
want that.
conditional approval, pending approval by the Concom of the current plans. So like, I think that might backfire anyway, but
Yeah.
but I'm happy to put it on for the 2nd and see if there's a way we can sort of troubleshoot that. And if we need to just continue it and you guys, if we figure we can't do it, then so be it. But at least gives you the window that we might be able to find a way to keep the clock moving.
Sure.
Okay. Any comments in the room or online or questions?
Anyone online, feel free to use the raise hand function. I'll give you the ability to speak.
All right, then I would take a motion to continue.
I motion to continue to June 2nd at 6 p.m. the Lathrop Community modification for a special permit.
Second.
All right, voting to continue to June 2nd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? All right.
Great.
See you on the
Thank you
2nd.
very much.
Thank you. All right, moving right along with some administrative items, we have review of a housing letter. Don't we want to chat about this?
Actually have Allison
We're gonna make
Manuel
Allison
here
call
with
in
us,
from home or
He
something?
is here.
who join us here in a moment. Meantime, I will get the letter up on screen.
Greetings, Allison.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good. How-
Good, thank you. So thank you for considering this tonight. It's a letter of support, as was mentioned, for a grant that would fund a housing production plan update for the city. Our current or latest housing production plan actually expired in March, so we're due for the update. Simultaneously, you've all already seen some of the recommendations from the housing partnership to change our zoning to make it more friendly towards housing. And that has raised some concerns in the community from different interest groups. And so I see the housing production plan as an opportunity to address some of the concerns and to review the housing partnership recommendations maybe a bit more thoroughly and consider a build out analysis based on their recommendations and potentially based on some additional regulatory changes that the consultants would help us identify.
Yeah, and so Allison shared this with me a couple weeks ago, and I mean, I don't think there's anything remotely contentious in this letter because it's literally just, we want to do actual analysis of housing needs and potential solutions. But be that as it may, signing on behalf of the planning board without a vote was not something I wanted to do. So we are here, but I mean, this doesn't ask for anything other than supporting a grant application to hire some experts to analyze our housing needs and potential solutions.
Quick question. So the grant, does that come out of the city budget or is it a grant from somewhere else?
It would be a grant from the State Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
Okay.
And we would be going, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We would be going to CPA for a 10% match. The Community Preservation Act Committee funded the last housing production plan. In this case, we're trying to get the grant funding to cover the bulk of it and just ask them for a small amount.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Any comments or questions? I mean, yes, Harry?
I think this is really great,
All right.
as long as we follow it.
Well, that won't really be us, but we can
No,
support.
this is, well, many residents support efforts to increase housing options. Public feedback has also raised important concerns about the potential impacts of new development infrastructure, wildlife habitat, and other resource areas.
That's why I thought this was a pretty vanilla letter, because it literally is talking about all the concerns that various people have told us and other
really hits the nail
people.
on the head as long as
And
we
let's get some data and like a thoughtful planning process for how we can get more housing in a responsible way.
Right.
I support this and I'd like to motion in favor of it. And if I can quote someone that I respect tremendously, I find it unobjectionable. Shall I?
Please.
I motion that the planning board issue the letter signed by Jesse of support for the city of Easthampton Housing Production Plan Grant application.
Second.
All right, voting on the floor, in favor of signing the letter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Excellent. I will do that post haste. Thank you,
Thank
Allison.
you. Thank you all.
All right, moving right along, we have the review of planning board fees, which Dylan prepared a nice memo here. Those of us that have been on there here for a while, this changes periodically, and obviously funding and revenue are hot topics in City Hall these days. Do you want to sort of give a quick overview of this, Dylan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you all know, we're here at the budget crunch here for the city. So we're all kind of looking at new ways of revenue, things like that. And our fees are not really a revenue source for the city. And we're not looking to necessarily turn them into that either. We are looking to actually capture some of the costs of permitting a little bit better than we currently do. So right now we charge, it's flat $150 fee across the board, regardless of what special permit you're looking for. Now, if you're doing a little karaoke bar, maybe you're trying to get a food truck court going off the ground, 150, sure, we've got no problems with something like that. But as we get into these larger, more complicated projects, they do take up more staff time. Now, I've done a very, very conservative estimate here of saying 10 hours of my time, 1 hour of the conservation agent, 2 hours of engineering, 2 hours of fire for just kind of every special permit that comes through. Generally speaking, it's going to be significantly more than that. Depending on the project, that number can vary. There's some where, you're going to be looking at 10 plus hours of the engineer's time. If you're talking about hours of even before you receive a permit, of meeting with developers who just want to ask, hey, what is zoning? How does this fit into there? And kind of workshopping plans. That's something that, doesn't even necessarily get captured. But if we say just something that we can say, every time you're always going to be looking at this amount of time for every plan, it breaks down among the different groups there, fire and engineering charging a little bit more than myself, but it breaks down to roughly about $35 hourly for a total of $525. And that's about per hearing. So every time they kind of come back before the board, that's the time you're looking at each. Usually that first hearing is more, but if you're looking at multiple hearings, it's roughly about that price kind of guaranteed for each hearing. I put together kind of to see what you would expect with this price formula that we went with. We're saying that it's $525 flat fee for any major housing project, defining a major housing project as any housing project that exceeds 4 units. So anybody who still wants to do, a duplex, if that comes to us, or even if they want to do a 4-family, that's still something smaller scale, they can do that, just the normal permitting fee, $150. But it is once you exceed that and you start getting into, the 35 Pleasant Streets, the 282 Loudville kind of projects that, as you all know, just take a lot more time to work through. They have a bigger impact. They generate more public interest. There's just a lot more to do administratively. We get more hearings as a result. So if you look at something like 35 Pleasant, what we're saying is every unit after the 4th unit to just charge an additional $75 and then say, all right, if we apply that retroactively, kind of what would that cost breakdown be? If you look at something like 35 Pleasant, we had 7 hearings. We estimate that was $525 per hearing. The estimated cost to the city conservatively is $3,675. With this formula, then the permitting fee for something like that would have been $3,375. So still coming under what the actual cost would be. So we're not, again, turning this into a revenue source, but again, we're more actually accurately capturing what the cost is to administer these projects. We look at 282 Loudville. We had, again, for both of them, it was 4 hearings. We're estimating $2,100 would be the cost to the city. And with the proposed fee for 282, it would have been $1,350. And then for 283, it would have been $1,275. So again, we're still coming well under what we think the actual administrative costs were, but now as opposed to just 150, we're getting at least closer to what that number is. And then as we think we have larger projects that may come to us in the future, I think this will do a much better job of actually mitigating the costs to the city. As we have large projects that, something like a Tasty Top, as you all know, took a year to navigate that. And that was a very costly project to the city to administer. It's still, that $150 permitting fee and that $150 site plan fee. And generally the idea is once these projects come online, they will generate more tax revenue. I think once 35 Pleasant is fully operational, I think 1 year of its what it will pay into the property tax will likely cover my salary and then some for all the time that I've been here. So again, we're not really trying to turn this to a revenue source, but just trying to not necessarily subsidize it either, because projects do fall apart and then they never pay anything into property tax.
And I think too, I mean, I really like this structure. I like that there's a base where we're not going higher because, you know, for the smaller projects, I mean, most of these are things where if you can't afford this fee, you're not building this project, right? But there are definitely small homeowners of smaller projects where I think the margin is very thin. So I like that we're not diving into that. I think, you know, honestly, I think we could even be a little more aggressive with these. Like, I don't like to see that every single time we've sort of not met the number. But again, I think it's better than the alternative where you're sort of making money on the back of an applicant. I think, you know, the most important part is that I actually think having a structure like this encourages and allows our city employees to give the help that they've already been giving. Like, I think you've done a lot, at least in the last year, especially with some of these applicants that, you know, essentially you're probably getting over the line and doing too much with some of them. But I think it's like part of the services we can offer to help residents and people who want to open businesses in the city. And I really like being able to do that. And I think that is made possible, or it's a little easier to justify when there's a shared cost for those applicants and for some of the other applicants to spread that into the department and help justify it. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well said, Jesse. I agree with that. This is the thing that caused me the most consternation coming into this meeting, and I spent a lot of time, you know, thinking about it. Jesse, you mentioned earlier that we were involved before in the 150, and things were a little different there. So I want to kind of go through what I think my thinking was and the discussions were at the time. Easthampton wasn't as fully built out. Right now, I consider us a success story. I really do.
Yeah.
There's more to do, but we weren't quite there then. And we were thinking about the fees that other communities, that Northampton, that, you know, all around us that were charging. And we wanted to make sure that we were, and we raised our fees at that time that, because we were even lower, that we were competing, but still lower, because we wanted to bring new business in. There's been a movement in our community of late of people that think we're doing too much. We're developing too fast. I think they're wrong. I think that if we start putting the brakes on, the success is very fragile. And then we've got to keep the businesses filled and we've got to keep the developers coming. That's my personal view. So I definitely want to think about not having fees that drive people away. But what happens when we're not charging what we're actually spending?
Right.
Well, it's the taxpayers who are then subsidizing those development costs. And I think some of that is fair for smaller homes, for people that don't have money.
It's a public service, right?
Exactly what you said, but the bigger ones don't. I think my take on this at the end of the day is that your numbers, I just intuitively felt they're conservative. And I feel that, you know, looking at these, as you painted this picture, you know, we're still a few $100 under so that we don't actually profit. And I agree that we're not trying to build a profit engine off of this, but I definitely think we should never be in a situation where we're paying more. And sure, there's got to be a little flex there because we just can't be that precise. I think you've done a very good job of this, but personally, I think the hourly rate is that you're charging as a combined average. I question that 35. I'm not sure. It's not, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I feel it's probably a little bit low. And I feel that you're saying basically 75 per unit. I think you'd be better at 100.
Harry?
You can always, it's too bad they couldn't have some kind of percentage what the place is worth.
Like, this
So in other
kind of
words,
is
they
what
can-
it gets to, right? Because this is sort of getting to that because it is above a threshold and then there's a markup per unit on top of that.
Right.
I sort of think, to James's point, I think rather than altering the hourly rate, that might be a place where you could say it's $100 or whatever per unit. And that would tick it up a little bit. I think there's still almost no way that this is going to generate a profit on anything, or where one applicant is going to subsidize other people's applications. But I see Allison has raised her hand and I would love to hear Allison's thoughts.
I just wanted to chime in on the hourly rate. You know, it's definitely low. You know, our engineers and the professional staff in the fire department are definitely higher than that. And I think that combined average is more than that. But particularly if we add in the fringe benefits and we can figure that out. We've had to do that for tracking in-kind services. for some grants that we've gotten. So I could work with Dylan to maybe get a little bit better estimate of the average, with those fringe benefits added in, which I think would help get this closer to the actual cost to the city. I mean, I can confirm like this is definitely very conservative, but we do have to comply with, Massachusetts law relative to fees, and that they have to be proportionate to the actual amount of cost to the city. So, we don't. It's a fine line to toe, I guess, with these.
I really appreciate that, Allison. I actually think it's worth it to put this off and have a little more math behind it, because I think it's very close, but I'd like to get it a little closer to what I think the actual cost is, especially because with the threshold you're having here of large scale projects, it's not, I mean, by definition, but it's not small projects, right? Like, these are commercial projects that will generate revenue for the owners, and that's obviously fine. And there's tons of benefits to the city when that happens. But the upfront cost, again, to your point, Dylan, there's a lot of applications that come in here that don't even make it to a hearing. But they still have an application fee, and that's a way to sort of spread some of that around too, especially for bigger projects, which these are. So I really love the idea of a threshold where that's where it triggers this. And I would love to see just like a little more, a little closer to what I think the actual cost is would be really helpful from my perspective.
I'd be curious to know first of all, what Northampton, Westhampton, Southampton are charging for. I don't think the Westhampton, Southampton are big projects, but how much are they charging?
I looked into that. And there's a variety there, and they're all relatively low from what I was looking at. I forget which town offhand charged. It was just a flat, I think it was like $1,000-something fee, just kind of, you hit a certain threshold and you're just there. But I based ours off of what we use for our comprehensive permits.
Yeah.
So for a comprehensive permit, it's $250 per unit. And generally, my thinking of why that number was chosen was as a deterrent for hostile 40Bs is I think why we went there. So we don't necessarily want to match that because there's a waiver provision in there for friendly 40Bs.
Well, it's hard too, because, to James's point, when we did this last time, which I want to say it was 10 plus years ago, but I don't know. Everybody around us had just flat fees. It didn't matter if I was getting a permit for a porch or I was building Tasty Top. And so that's like what we did. And I think now, just from my own experience in the world, is that there's more complicated analysis involved. So it's a little harder to say, what do you charge for an A&R? A&R is actually easy because they're pretty much all the same, but bad example. But like, it's a little hard to say that special permit, because if their triggers are just slightly different, then it's not apples to apples. But I think, and I don't think we need you to do like a regional analysis or anything like that. But I do think if you and Allison can figure out maybe to throw some of the fringe benefits in and make sure like that hourly rate is actually accurate, then I think it'd be worth the time.
Will do.
We're not.
Yeah, if I may add something to, I'm sure you've all seen the proposed budgets, and if the override doesn't pass, Dylan's positions hours will be reduced substantially. So more of my time will be going into this, and I'm a little bit more expensive. So I think maybe we need to factor that in as well.
I think, a blended rate isn't a bad idea for the planning department, because I mean, even now with fully staffed, I know that there are things that sort of shift around from one to the other and depending on there and what's going on. So I would certainly be in favor of a blended rate for whatever your department is compensated at. All right, I don't think we need a motion to continue this because we're just an administrative item for now. So if that works for you guys, I would love to do that. Thank you for putting this together and starting it.
Sure. And just the one more thing I want to touch on before we totally move on. They put in major commercial as well. This is one kind of looking at surrounding communities. The one who I thought kind of followed a similar formula we were proposing with residential. This was taken from Amherst fee schedule, how they do it. So they do it based on every 5,000 square feet. So this would be, again, that once you exceed 5,000 square feet for commercial, you're in major 525 base fee. And then every 5,000 you go after that. Picked 100. This was just kind of a starting point. This may be an area to think about as well, but before this is an area you folks like this approach, we can also work on these numbers as well.
I think that'd be good. Sorry, I had read ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off from your presentation.
No worries. And then stormwater fees, this is one that's always very costly and takes a lot of engineering time, which is much more expensive. That one's set in
We
city
can fix that
ordinance.
one.
Nothing you folks can do about it, so don't worry about it, but we did consider it. And then A&Rs, those are $50 fee, and that is a very fair fee.
Yep.
It is does this comply with zoning?
And it's more or less the same on every one. I can think of maybe 1 or 2 A&Rs where we've had continued hearings and research and work involved in the last decade. So I think that's a good point too. All right.
Overall, great start.
Yeah, thank you. Last item on the agenda. I gave you a heads up several months ago. Coming back again, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has a representative. That is me. I have been for, I don't know, 12, 14, however long. It is quarterly meetings. It is very light lifting. The meetings are all on Zoom except maybe their annual meeting. And it's literally attending and listening to the presentations and.
What night is it? Is it static?
I believe it is Thursday nights.
Once a quarter?
Once a quarter. It's the real problem with that is, I've missed 3 meetings in a row, which means I'm about to go a year without being at a meeting, which is not good. So yeah, if it was weekly, I would have made a few. Yeah, Thursday nights. So
How long do they typically last?
they're typically an hour and a half to 2 hours, I would say. And, there's an executive committee that does a lot of work between every meeting. And I have never been a part of that, and you would never have to either. But, and again, we don't have to do it
6, 7?
right now. If you want to wait and we can talk, go look on the website.
Say yes. So
There you go.
Start at 6 or does it start at 7?
It starts.
When you said Zoom, that changed everything.
Yeah.
I psychologically pushed myself back so that I would not be
I
included on
believe it's
Zoom,
6, although
whatever.
for some reason my calendar tells me it starts at 5:32, which is not true. I think it's 6.
All right, I agree. If you'll have me.
Excellent. So I would like to make a motion that we designate James as our city representative for the PVPC.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstained. All right. So Dylan, I think maybe you guys have to figure out how to do this procedurally with them, but, and we're supposed to have an alternate. I'll stay on as alternate if we do it that way. That's probably easier. So
Okay.
at least someone will go. All right. Excellent. I will take a motion to adjourn then.
Motion to
Second.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
and our local cable subscribers.